All right, time three.
Welcome back to The Watch. And we just got back from John Wick Chapter 4. And how to describe this film? Well, so no spoilers yet. How do we describe it?
Go see it.
Art. I describe it as art. Literal
Genuine
art.
art. Actually, it is an awesome movie.
Yeah.
Great fun. Beautiful, I would say.
Yeah. It is a beautiful film to look at.
Yeah.
And the action. Look, how do I describe it? I'm sorry, you got some story in your action here.
Yeah. There is so much.
There's so much action, more than the other films, like combined.
Yeah.
There's so much action in this, and the action is unique.
It's good. It's good action. And here's the thing, right? I've watched action movies before, and there's a few times where action happens for the sake of action.
Yeah.
But I feel like every single time the music starts playing and it starts, you know, a fight scene's coming, there is still motives and it's still cool and fun because there's still story there. Now, no spoilers as well. The story definitely does not really hold up much. It's subpar at best.
Yes, there is barely any story in this one, but if you've been following along from the other three films, it's sort of, there's less story than the other ones, but it still has that subtle story. I would say more subtle story in this one.
Which I actually liked because, especially since here on Night's Watch, we've been reviewing some really trashy movies and TV show. For once, I felt like it wasn't holding my hand.
There was no messaging either.
No messaging. Nothing.
No messaging.
Nothing.
The only message was that guns are really fun. Basically, that was
guns
it.
are cool, right? You want to see an auction? And maybe a little bit of katana propaganda, but we can talk about that later.
There was some weapon propaganda.
Yeah.
But I mean, every single film on planet Earth falls into that.
Yeah.
They just all do.
So the story was lacking, but at the same time, it left enough there for those who would be keen for a story, can at least... Like, I didn't feel like an idiot. It wasn't like the Marvel stuff where they're like, oh, I like this one, she's funny. There was, a few one-liners where I was just like, okay, you guys are just trying to be a bit smarter than you already are, but it doesn't present itself as a story movie. It is an action movie.
I feel as though if you've watched the other three, like just say you sat down and watched all four of these movies together, it would be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It tells the complete story when you watch them as four. It's just because it's a film.
Yeah.
It's not a season TV show.
Yeah.
So when you get to this film, there's less story than all the others because it's trying to wrap up the entire story, which it does.
Yeah.
But we won't get into spoilers yet. What do you rate it out of 10?
It's like an 8.
Yeah. I'd go for an 8.
It's an 8. Like, obviously, 9 would be something where I walk out the theater and go, wow.
Yeah.
But I walked out the theater, I was happy, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
It had enough action, story beats.
It had a lot of action.
It looked
so much
so
action.
good. Like, the composition of these shots.
This is one of those things where usually when we say that, people will be like, oh, well, it's about the story, it's about this or that. But it's like every shot in the film looked like a piece of art. It was quite beautiful.
And the attention to detail with things as well.
Yeah.
Like the subtlety on storytelling. I feel like if I go back or if I watch... Like, I feel like this is a movie. If you go watch director's commentary, they will tell you things that you missed and you'd be like, oh, that's so cool. Because you can just feel the effort put into this movie.
And it was shot all over the world.
Yeah.
It was shot in Japan, Berlin, Paris, pretty much everywhere. I'm pretty sure that is everything for non-spoilers. Yeah. I mean, there's not really much to talk about without non-spoilers other than it's full of action, it's very beautiful, and it concludes the story in the way that, you would expect.
Yeah. I think if you enjoy the other ones, go watch this one. If you don't want to be spoiled, then stop this video. Come back once you're finished because we're going to have a fun discussion. So go watch the movie, come back and then watch us. And especially for those who maybe have missed out on John Wick and it's something that you've been like, for me at least, like I missed the boat on some of the movies. If I had known, or someone told me, hey, go watch these movies now, go binge them, enjoy them, like you're going to have a good time. This is actually a really good series, worthwhile.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are fantastic. 3 I wasn't really that into, but 4 is like awesome. And it has more action than all of the others. There's just so much action.
And it's not messy action. Like you can take in everything. Like I want to just say, we've had some trashy movies and TV in terms of like poor lighting, you know what's going on, fight scenes are just like this is clean action, even the night scenes.
There's stuff that we want to test now.
Everything is visible, and they have brought up many questions for us for Shadiversity on combat.
So expect something at some point.
We're going to get some John Wick videos, ladies and gentlemen. But before we go into spoilers, I think we should let everyone know, if you enjoy our videos, then please do go to Subscribestar, Patreon, Utreon, anywhere else.
Up or down.
Up or down. Whoever edits this kind of decides where it goes. So, and show your support, Teespring, merch, all that sort of stuff. And as well,
our personal stuff.
If you like Tyranth.
You got your new gaming channel.
I was shilling you first, damn it.
You got your gaming channel.
I got my gaming channel now.
Yeah, go subscribe if you want to see Nathan game.
And you've also got a gaming channel. See, I actually game. Your gaming channel is just about games.
Yes, but I've also got my second channel, which is where I do all my fun stuff.
Yeah, he's got a bajillion channels. Like, if you go to one, you'll find all the others.
You just go to the one in the link in the description.
So,
you'll find his channel and my channel. Subscribe if you're interested.
If you like us.
But now, spoilers.
Spoilers, yes.
Spoilers for John Wick. Should we just spoil the big one?
Sure. So, you've been warned. Spoilers ahead. Biggest one coming up.
John Wick dies.
He dies at the end.
Yes, he dies at the end. Which usually in these sorts of stories annoys me. Because I'm like, I've wasted my time watching this.
Yeah.
However, it felt very much like this was the only
way out.
The only end to his story. And it was good because he had accomplished what he wanted. He remember, this is spoilers. He became a free man at the end. He saved his friend's life and got his life back together. He also, his other friend who played Donnie Yen, the Kane, in the movie, saved him and his daughter's life. And he was at a point where he's like, okay, I'm free now. I can die on my own terms.
Yeah.
So he's just like, all right, I'm gonna head out.
I'm going down these steps, then I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
So no, it was interesting too, because I liked how they didn't. I don't know, like there's that typical grave site where other two characters look at the graves and like, where do you think he is, heaven or hell? It's like, I don't really care.
I was just waiting for the Marvel, like he's just kind of
John Wick's like behind him, and does the Sonnies are like, hello boys, I'm not dead yet, and then it's like, he will return in John Wick Chapter 5.
I had to keep reminding myself this isn't a Marvel movie. I just had to. I'm like, no, he's dead, right? He's not actually going to come back.
But I liked it because so other movies, right, other series and whatever, I would feel like if their main character died, they'd make it way more dramatic. They try to make you cry. With this one, it was, I've got to say, in a very positively masculine way. Like, he had done his duty, he was satisfied with his life, and you don't need to cry, but you can feel in your heart of like, okay.
And they did foreshadow
it's done.
As well, because every single time John Wick's gone up against someone, it's always like, I'm going to kill you. And he does. And he's like, I'm going to do this, but then when he goes to Winston at the end, he's like, on my gravestone, like he's at a point where he's like, after I've got my freedom, I'm just going to die on my own terms. Which he did.
He does.
And it was good.
And I feel like his death doesn't degrade anything else in the movie either. Like, I don't feel ripped off or cheaped. Like, for example, in Far From Home, the Spider-Man movie, where basically they erase him and stuff, I felt so ripped off because I was like, what is the last 3 movies? And you're just rebooting him anyways, but it's the same character. With John Wick, I feel like...
Now, there is something to mention. I don't know how accurate this is off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there's a spin-off coming called Ballerina with the Russian family that he's from. And I think, off the top of my head, I think it's a prequel, and I think he might be in it. I don't know. That's just from the very quick that I saw it from like 3 months ago or whenever it was.
Look, that's fine. I'm just glad that we have like an end to the story. Now you have this series of movies you can go back and watch.
You can watch 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's a contained story. It all fits together.
Executed. So, That is, I mean, I love this movie. This is a good movie.
It was a good movie.
It has issues, which I think we should probably address now as well.
Right. Okay. So there are issues on the face of it that right off the bat, someone like Shad would really like. Like there's a big nunchuck scene. There's a big nunchuck scene. And as someone who has tested nunchucks, I can't help but agree with a lot of his points on nunchucks. However, the way they were used in the film, for example, was not a unbelievable way. For example, something like nunchucks versus a sword is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Nunchucks against an unarmed person is it's a bit more in the realms of possibility. And when John Wick was using, he was using them in the film with guns.
Yeah.
And with his regular gun fu. Like, we've got some nunchucks here. Some nunchuck.
Do you want to get the cool?
Yeah. So, for example, when there was a scene where he binds the nunchucks with the gun. Obviously, this rope isn't long enough, but he binds them and pulls them down, which is very believable. And remember, in the terms of that,
this is also so. If I'm the thug guy, this is a wall.
Yeah.
John Wick's right there.
He's hiding behind the wall.
I'm like looking around, and then immediately my gun's disarmed.
Yeah. Another way that he uses them is he turns the nunchucks into a stick. And sticks are good. Everybody loves sticks. He basically, hold on, give me a second here. How did he do it? That's it. Again, this string isn't really long enough, but he binds them into he binds the nunchucks into a stick and then starts using them as a stick into the throats as well. So there is things where there was a very ridiculous scene where he uses the nunchucks like a bicycle wheel and just bang.
Boom, boom, boom. But okay, my main worry with the nunchucks was that he's going to do lots of like flaring around.
Yeah, he didn't.
Showing off.
He didn't. He used them in a practical way.
Especially at the very start, it was like whack, whack. Like he was just going ham, and I was like, okay, this feels a lot more realistic. It wasn't until all the thugs were like on the ground,
and he
did a bit of a flare for no one to see. And
he was always hitting the guns out of the way as well. It wasn't like he was trying to hit them in the face. No, it was hitting things out of the way,
and then straight to like the face,
straight into the neck, things like that. The gun fu was awesome. It was good. I want to test it, so we're gonna try and we'll see what we can come up with. Test that sort of stuff. The action was very good. I liked all of the action. There was things like the regular things that just in the John Wick world that don't make sense. Yeah. Like their suits are just made of suit material, like bulletproof material, but they can like hide against bullets.
Especially, okay, he's done that where he has his hand up.
Yeah.
Right here. Fleshy hand.
Yeah.
And he's putting it up against the suit coat and then that gets shot, but his hand doesn't.
Well, the only thing that annoys me about that is it doesn't follow the own logic of its world. For example, when he gets hit with the shotgun, it's just a thin material, so he's like, ugh! But then when he gets hit by normal bullets, he's just like, take 1,000 rounds. It's like, no, you're still gonna, like in the first couple of films, when he gets hit by a bullet in the suit, he doesn't die, but it hurts.
Yeah.
In this, he was just taking all the bullets.
Also, I understand John Wick's power level in this universe is much more than everyone else's.
Yeah.
But
when he jumped out the window?
There's 2 times. Well, there's one where he's fighting the German boss man, and he throws him off, and then he hits like a steel barring, and then hits the ground really hard.
Yes. So
see, like that, I'm like, okay, he should, especially when it cuts to him, and like there's no bruises, no nothing. Right. He's just like, ugh. I would at least him to be like winded and somewhat fatigued.
That's more believable to me because human beings, can fall from, I think it's like 2 stories without dying. So John Wick is obviously like a superhuman.
Yes.
But the scenes that were more egregious to me was when he like got hit by the car.
Yeah.
And into the van and then just what's going on? That was like
see that one?
And then when he jumped out the window.
See, we heard the audience. Did you hear everyone around us? They're like, as if he jumps out. How many stories would say? Like 5?
4 or 5 stories.
4 or 5. Jumps out a window onto a van.
But it lands on the corner of the van.
Yeah. So
and
like
flips. Yeah.
And then like rolls onto the pavement and then he keeps going.
That was the only scene where I was like, God. And then also the NPCs.
Yeah.
The people in the background, like the people just eating, like there's one scene where they're walking downtown Paris and people are just, on the side of the street having coffees, eating dinner and stuff. And there's like a whole group of people just firing guns. First off, like 10 feet away from these people, they don't move. People are still eating food in the background. And on top of that, anybody who's ever fired a gun knows how loud they are. They will blow your ears out. And they're firing guns it's one of those inconsistent things. Like at least in the first couple of films, they're using silencers. Not that silencers are any better, but at least when we play with the Hollywood fantasy, that's more believable than just straight guns like this far away from people.
Exactly. And so there was that scene when they were like kind of in the eatery area. People were just still having their dinners. There was the club where like people were... It wasn't until like halfway through the club. So he's chasing, beating up, people are dying, getting stabbed, and all the club members are like, woo! And it wasn't until the boss...
I just feel like dancing.
Yeah.
I just feel like dancing.
It wasn't until the boss was like getting caught down and then like basically killed that everyone's like, oh, we got to scram.
Like, I think it was the second film. I think it's the second film. No, maybe it's the first film. I think it's the first film when they're in the club, and after he fires like 2 or 3 rounds on the dance floor, everybody just like
leaves.
Scan. Yeah. Like, it's still unbelievable that it took that many because they were firing just upstairs.
Yeah.
But hey, whatever. In this one, they're like firing round after round. They're hitting people with axes in the head, and everybody's just, I just feel like dancing. Yeah. I just feel like dancing. Nobody's
no
moving.
one is aware of what's happening. They're just like, especially when the boss man's like pushing everyone out of the way, you'd be like, oh, what's happening with this guy? And there's another guy chasing him, and they're like beating up and stuff. You'd think that people would stop, but no, they don't. That one was unrealistic. And then also the roundabout, I found was...
It was unrealistic because as soon as something happens on a roundabout, everybody stops. They had a gunfight and like hand-to-hand combat and cars crashing into each other on the...
Cars just kept going around that roundabout.
I forgive me, I don't care that much about France's landmarks, but the one where it's the giant roundabout with the...
I think it was Berlin.
No,
was it France?
That's France.
Okay.
That's France.
Berlin's good.
Where there's like hundreds of cars going around, and they're just smashing into each other, fighting, and throughout the entire fight, there's just cars just keep going around. It's
civilian cars.
Yeah, civilian cars. Firing at the civilian cars.
The reason why there's so many cars chasing him down is because there's been a hit put on them. And so all the like hitmen are trying to kill him because they want, $20-40 million, however much.
If you've been following the other movies, that's the same.
Yeah,
as all the other movies.
But I would find it unbelievable just that like you said, once one car stops, everything... We know what traffic is like.
They did it at the end.
Yeah.
All the cars stopped, and there was like they all stopped because everybody was getting shot at. But it took like 5-10 minutes. It's like this after like 3 shots, everybody's gonna stop.
Also, there was a part where he's in the car doing burnouts in the roundabout, then gets hit, and after that we get a sequence of there's like minivan cars that like are just going with like family. Yeah. Just driving by. I mean, maybe
like
Paris,
it's still
France
good and
is
it's
a bit
still
different,
fun.
But there's just those things where it's like
there is those little things where you're just like, okay, that's a bit too much, but it's part and parcel for the John Wick franchise. So you're like, it's still top,
but it would. Because that's the thing, John Wick has that little extra care in like fight choreography and the set pieces like are just stunning. If they just added a bit more detail of the way civilians reacted to the environment, would actually lift the movie even more.
Yeah. The set pieces, we've already mentioned a couple times, but the set pieces in this one are the best of all of them. They are incredible in this film.
Like when the villain, he's just in this like little mansion thing, and he's got the big red like tux on, he's just eating stuff. My eyes were like, there's too many pretty things to look at right now.
The villains in this movie, so there's how many would you say? I would say there's 2.
There's 2 main ones,
2 to 3. They're all really good. Pennywise, the actor that plays Pennywise, the Skarsgård kid, he's really good.
Yeah.
And then there's the big fat villain.
Yeah, the German guy.
And he is like...
Comic book villain.
But
it isn't like cringe comic book. It's like sinister. This is a guy who you wouldn't want to meet down an alleyway or whatever. Yeah. Like big, nice gold teeth.
And he can throw hands.
And he's just big. And he's got this the German accent, and it's so good.
And he's a good fighter as well. Like he beats up John Wick basically, and it's entertaining.
And the way he dies, man.
Yeah, he dropped like a sack of potato.
But like, you could feel the neck break as he lands on his head. Like, woo!
Yeah, but that's most of the. I think that's most of the stuff. It's very good. It's a very good film. Very beautiful. There's not much story compared to the other ones, but then again, I feel like it's meant to be watched all together. Like when you watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy,
you're meant to
watch it all together, and it flows a lot better. Because like if you go from the last film where he was, fighting against the High Table and he gets betrayed and all that sort of stuff, like, and then go into this film, it flows perfectly. And I feel like it's just because it's a standalone in the cinemas. Yeah, you're kind of just like, like I mean, story,
even then, I picked up enough.
But we spoke about this. I do have a feeling they cut stuff out.
Yes.
Because the whole premise of John Wick, well, not the whole premise, but like the backstory of John Wick is that he's Russian and that he has, Russian families and all this Russian. There was some of that in here.
Mentioned at the beginning. Like halfway through.
Yeah. And it was very integral to the plot. It felt like there was a lot more that they've modified to, because of things happening in the world, basically. That's just what it felt like, because it felt like there was story missing. Not story that was integral to tell the story, because it's very subtle, and if you've watched the others, you'll get it. But it just felt like, it felt a bit unbalanced.
Yeah, and as a viewer as well, I felt like they mentioned Russia a lot, kind of at the start and the middle, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
no more.
Yeah. But that, I think, is everything. Is there anything we're forgetting?
Well, there's a few characters. There's the guy with the dog.
Oh, yeah.
I liked him. He
You
was
liked
awesome.
it? Yeah, I thought he was good. I felt it was just very... His motivations confused me. Like, he wanted money.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were trying to get money, but it's implied that he's trying to get money for a house. So his dog can live at a nice house. Like, it felt like that was the whole motivation for everything he did. So there's this character. He's a tracker character. He's pretty good. He has a dog as well that he uses in combat. And he has a little book which has, like...
All the info.
All the secrets of the universe in
Yeah.
it. And it's very implied that he needs $40 million to buy a house
And retire.
which all the main characters in this film have tried to retire and haven't. So
Lofty goal for the man, okay?
Yeah.
I respect him for it.
and then he helps John Wick a lot through the film simply because he wants to keep him
wants to be
alive,
the one
so
that
he
gets
gets the
Yeah.
money. But then right at the end, John Wick saves his dog. So
Hey, I like it. Connecting to the first one, you know, you get my dog.
yeah, so he switches teams and helps John
Yeah.
Wick. He's a good character. I like him.
And like at the end, right, when he's like, you know what, you said my dog's more important to me than anything else. And then he just like walked, like there's a duel at the end. He just watches the duel, drinking a beer. And he's like,
well, I mean,
dog.
if you've had such a long day, like long night hunting,
But
it's like,
that's what I love about it. Like he didn't just go off and leave and whatever. Like
Yeah.
other movies would be like, oh, I'm gonna go be mysterious and whatever. It's just like guy with his dog sits on the park bench
Yeah.
and watches the duel go on.
Yeah.
And is like, oh, that was pretty good. Like, again, there's things in this movie that just feel so real to me.
What I liked about him is they didn't set him up to be like another John Wick.
No.
They didn't set him up to be some invincible guy.
Yeah.
They set him up as like, oh, who is he? You don't know. He seems like he's pretty good. But then when he's faced with like Pennywise, the villain, he's like, all of a sudden it's like, we know who's in control here.
Yeah.
But I like that. He was very competent. He was good, but he wasn't a John Wick character.
Yeah.
Then we had Donnie Yen's character, Kane, who was, I really liked, I just don't like the magic aspect. I don't like the magic aspect. They tried to make it realistic at the start with the doorbells, but...
By the end, he's suddenly dodging and fighting and doing stuff while blind.
Yeah, so Donnie Yen character plays Kane, and he's blind. It's implied that he gave up his eyes to retire for him and his daughter, but obviously the main villain threatens him, brings him back in. Common cliche. But he's able to, like... shoot people. He's able to use his sword to kill people. He's able to do everything that he's even able to read the cards in the poker game.
He read the cards.
Like, I don't understand why he was blind. Just make him see. It would have made no difference to the story.
Or like have his like vision be cloudy.
Yeah.
Or like it'd be, and that's the thing. There was actually some good moments in this movie that like were played off really well. Like I'm trying to think of the comedy, right? So there's the guy that goes to kill the dog. They end up killing him.
Yeah.
And at the very end, the like dog pisses on him.
Yeah.
And everyone was like laughing, like, yeah, you go, dog, you do that.
There was a lot of elder people in the cinema.
Lots of elderly. Then who are like,
demographics. Okay, let's be clear.
And like with the comedy in this, it was never like Marvel comedy of like, oh no, what's happening here?
Like Donnie Yen at the end.
Yeah.
Where the guy's like, remember your daughter, and he just tells him straight up.
Oh, it was so good. He's like, remember your daughter. F off.
Yeah.
F off. I was like, that's, again, another
Realistic.
thing that
You're
like,
just
grounds
not-
it. I'm like,
yeah.
that's what you would say to the guy who's like blackmailed you into dueling your best friend.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think that's all of the main characters. I can't think of any others. Was there any others?
I mean, there's everyone else just kind of shows up
Yeah.
and then disappears and then shows up again.
Yeah. I think what I really like about the John Wick movies is the world building. The world building is really good. From the first film to this film, it's always really good, and I like it. We've seen all of the Continentals. We've seen how they, you're excommunicado. There's all this world building that goes into every film.
Yeah.
And even this film is just like,
They build upon it. It's
good.
It's awesome. Yeah. Fight scenes are fantastic. Locations are awesome.
Yes.
And there's things too, right? I remember when they were in Japan? Or
They were in
were
Japan, yeah.
Okay. Because there's a training room that has flashing lights and it has like targets and men are training. And at first I'm like, what is this bull crap? Like, why would you do this? But then when they actually get invaded and stuff, all the guys know how to like shoot in like this low light area, and all the other guys are kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
So it's funny because most movies, right, when we break them down, we can find clear factual reasons why that was a stupid point.
Yeah.
But with John Wick, saving bar few things, most of the things you can reasonably kind of defend to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, like it's John Wick. Guess what? There's no political reasons for this movie to exist. Like it's just a good time. It actually made me forget what was going on with my day, and I just enjoyed the movie.
That's the important part. I feel like you have to remember that is that it's not trying to be like
a
Titanic.
Message.
It's just trying to be fun entertainment of combat with a great world that it's set in. There was two more things I want to mention.
Mm-hmm.
There was some product placement. I can't remember the other ones through the film, but there was the one at the end with the watch. He was wearing an Omega Aquaterra.
Yeah.
And I knew immediately when they pulled up that like slow-mo of his watch, I'm like, that's a product placement.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention was one of the combat scenes. Okay. So we have combat scenes, what you would expect throughout all the John Wick's films, all beautiful, all of them. There was one that was just incredible. The camera goes from third person to a top down as he's going through a house.
Like it is like Hotel, what was it called? Hotline Miami.
It's a literal video game, but like the graphics are obviously real graphics.
Yeah.
It was so good. I've never seen that before, and I thought it was.
And the thing is, they weren't just like top down for the whole time. It was top down. They go back down. They go back up. Here's my one major compliment to this movie. I could not tell when things were CGI and when things were real. Yeah. Like Marvel, you can tell, oh, that's a CGI city.
I think the only thing I could tell was remember when they were in the giant church, things right on the far side looked very rendered.
Yeah.
Right up the top. But everything else felt real.
And also there was, at the ending with the duel, when they have like Paris in the background, part of me is like, did they really film it here?
Yeah.
But like at the same time, it's
not bad.
It's that question
bad.
too. It's like, did they or didn't they? I can't tell. It's hard to tell with the...
It's not bad.
One thing I did remember actually was with the dog. There's a part where the dog gets hit by a car.
Right.
And whenever there's violence against animals, they just do CGI. But it's like still good.
It's like instant though. Like you don't... You were not going to notice it.
It's no MODOK.
Yeah.
It's no MODOK. So another thing, like I could never tell with the stunts, right? Because they're doing stuntman stuff and they've got fire, all these other things. It's so hard to tell what's real and what's fake because of how much I'm guessing is practical.
I loved the phaser gun, the fire gun.
Yeah.
There's a scene where these French created this ammo specific for their gun, and it basically turns it into like a blaster.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing ever.
Fire shells, basically.
Yeah, basically, it looks awesome. It looks like tracer rounds, but 1,000 tracer rounds all at once.
Yeah, basically.
It's wicked. But
so when he's shooting that, it's just like, you're on fire, you're on fire, you're on fire.
Like vaporizing people.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah. I think that's everything, though. That's the villains, that's the action, that's the story. But yeah, he dies at the end.
He dies at the end. It isn't sad, but I feel complete.
Yeah, it's sad in that you're like, oh, probably not going to get any more John Wick.
Yeah.
But it's like... the story feels complete.
And I'm glad because I'd rather stories go with a big bang like how we did. Like all these fight scenes were like top notch. They were doing the best they could instead of like, okay, now we're going to do a fifth one, but it's not going to be as good. It's going to be like number 2 or 3.
So the last action scene when he dies is basically... really, it's not an action scene at all. They're basically having an old-fashioned duel with dueling pistols.
Which I was like, that's so... to end on something so...
because it fits on brand so well.
Yeah.
And I knew, as soon as I heard the shell, I knew what they were going to do. Because there's a point where Donnie Yen and him are dueling, and I think they're at about 10 paces at this point.
Yeah.
And you only hear one shot go off.
Yeah.
Which I knew instantly that John still had the round in the chamber, which means he can still fire it.
Yeah.
And then basically the villain comes in and is like, oh, no, give me the gun. Give me the gun.
I want to do it. I want to do it.
I want to be the one to do it. And he gives him the gun and he's like, then Winston's basically like, you're an idiot. He didn't fire his shot. And all of a sudden John's just like,
bam. And
it was a good way to end that.
Perfect send-off.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I mean, just that it was an awesome movie. I wish we could go back. And I reckon this movie is going to make back so much more than it spent.
Yeah.
I reckon they spent a lot, but I reckon this is going to be they're going to make more of these movies.
I
want
to know how much they spent. I actually want to know how much they spent because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
like there's other films that Rings of Power you spent $1 billion on, and it looks
because it was all stuff on set. It was all set stuff. Where here, I feel like they rented out those spaces to actually use them, and it shows. It pays off.
So throughout the film, they go from Japan to Berlin to Paris.
Yeah.
So they have and obviously it's the most iconic of all those places. So it's very beautiful. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
But no, there was an element of eloquence in John Wick that I didn't know I needed until watching this movie, and was like, wow, every other sludgefest movie, this is the new standard now. I'm sorry, Marvel, if you cannot do a single good fight scene like John Wick can, what are you doing? What are you doing? But yeah, well, before I was saying as well, I hope that, because obviously John Wick 1 was kind of, what would you call, like a shot in the dark in a sense? They kind of took a risk on it.
It was a brand new IP, brand new, like a very simple story. Just, it was 100% the action was what, and the world building that really was what bound it together.
Yeah, and so I hope that the companies and creators that made this one, because I know, the director or someone, they made Nobody, the movie, and that was good too.
Right.
I hope that they just basically make this into, superhero movies are great, but let's have some action movies that just take over for a bit. That'd be awesome.
If I could describe it in one word, I'd describe it as grandiose, but not in a bad way. In a wow, you guys really, you wanted to show a visual story.
Yeah.
There's more visual than speaking. Yeah, that's what it was.
Because I will admit as well, with speaking, there were things like, it's about Ned Kelly, who I absolutely love, and it's his last words were, "Such is life," and he's like, oh, what a way to go out.
We got some Australian representation in this film.
The sad thing is, right, I was like, okay, no one, all the Americans are like, oh, who's this Ned Kelly guy? I don't know who he is. There was no cool show his armor, show he's a cool guy or whatever.
Yeah, I thought they would have had his armor on display.
Yeah, but he just said, nah. And it was such an offhand thing. That's the thing that annoyed me. A lot of the dialogue between, especially when it's with the villain and whoever is talking to the villain, it's always one-liners of you are yourself whenever, right. They shoved so many of those one-liners in, which I'm sure, a bunch of young men are going to listen to, and they'll say it in their friend groups of oh, such is life. Oh, so I understand why they put it in there, because all the teenagers are going to be like, oh, that's really cool. But I wished they nearly had it with the dialogue. There was just some parts where I just knew that they were just I feel like they just looked up top 10 cool quotes for whoever. So that's my only really gripe with the dialogue. And look, I haven't really broken down the story of whether or not things make sense, cause and effect, being excommunicated and then brought back in, and all that other story stuff. I feel like I'd actually do a second watch over and think with that mind more deeply. But at the same time, being a viewer who's at least watching out for things like with the nunchucks, I was totally ready for. I was ready for some really dumb stuff. Yeah. A lot of it none of it took me out of the experience.
Well, I want to be clear. So the stuff with the nunchucks is probably dumb. It probably is. But it at least made me go, I should test this to make sure, which is usually not how that works. Usually I'll be like, that's not going to work.
I thought nunchucks, I thought the whole scene was going to be just him just going, it was going to be really, really... And, there were parts, I think the biggest gripes I had were with being in Japan. They got the katanas, they got the ninja stars, which thankfully didn't show up really.
Yeah, they didn't show up.
And there was a part where the chick is fighting a guy and the guy is walking up the stairs and she's just climbing up his back with knives, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that doesn't feel...
That fight scene was... She's like a 50-pound chick with a 200-pound guy.
Yeah.
And he ragdolls her. Yeah. But then she also uses a bit of, judo and does it the same to him.
It's weird. Again, this is stuff where I'm like, they weren't too bad. It wasn't a girl boss moment, I don't think, because she still got hit and whatever. Yeah. But there are, and part of me is like, okay, if he hits her, I want her to fly onto
and it did.
She does.
It did.
But then there are also parts where he's grabbing her, then she kicks off a wall, and how much would that really propel him backwards? Yeah. So there's a little bit of there, and just the stuff with the blind guy and having doorbell things. They're in the kitchen and he places doorbells in different spots, and then as people walk by, he goes and shoots them.
Yeah.
That's one thing I want to test. I want to have sounds and see how well we can aim and shoot things.
I think that's as realistic as he got in terms of his abilities. Yeah. But then after that, they just abandoned that, and he's just
especially when he fights the chick's mum, and they sword fight. That's what got me.
The chick's her dad.
The chick's dad. Sorry,
dad.
Sorry. Dad. The chick's dad. Like, also, I found his death was a bit. He's like, I'm doing it for her. I'm like, well, you're not, because now you're dead.
Yeah, but he'd already been shot, which we didn't see until it was.
But she got shot too, and she's still alive.
I know, but that's why he lost. I'm gonna assume that's why he lost.
Yeah, but just, that's the little thing where I was like, okay, if you're actually a good dad, maybe you wouldn't go off and try to fight your friend.
That's
also
just
the fact that he
cultural differences.
Cultural differences, sure. But the fact that they dueled with swords and the blind guy could like block him.
Yeah.
Like there are cool elements, right? When he thinks going back to the fight scene with John, he the
first thing he can't tell if he's dead or not.
Are you dead?
John, you dead?
Dead? And then it wasn't until he moves a bit, then he goes, oh, you're not dead. And they keep fighting. Like that was cool. Yeah. But afterwards, when he's trying to like fight with katanas, he's got his cane and whatever, that stuff, I'm like, Yeah. All it takes is like stepping back, and then instead of slashing, you just like stab,
or just being quiet.
That's what I mean. There's so many things.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I don't know why they made him blind. Like, I just don't understand what it added to the story in a realistic sense.
See, I feel like they're trying to do a tough character from Last Airbender, but the thing is, she could earthbend. She could sense other people. Where like, especially in John Wick, where like you want it to be real world, it's very hard for a blind guy. To fight.
Yeah, with guns.
And you're trying to like make it like he like turn his ear and like listen, but at the same time it's guns.
Yeah. That is like the weakest part. Like the NPC people and some of the feats are just too much. But apart from that, it's what you expect.
It's what makes it a 8 and not a 9. If you had a good I see they wanted to give him some sort of what's it called? I see they want to give him a handicap to make him look cooler than he actually is. But I feel like making him blind was too much and made his feats too unrealistic.
Yeah. Like if they took a hand and put a sword on there, I'd be like, okay, that makes you a bit more handy, because like you can't pick up a gun with it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. We'd call this like I don't know what handicap I would want to give someone.
You'd have to think about it. But making them blind in a world where you're using guns every 5 seconds?
Yeah. Or like when they were dueling, right? I was like, why doesn't John just like step to the side? Like it was so easy to win that duel, and instead he gets shot.
It might be against the rules of the duel, but anyway, it's on brand with John Wick. If you like the other movies, you're gonna like this one.
Yes.
If you're looking for some deep and meaningful story, I mean, if you really read into it, maybe. But if you just look at the surface stuff, this one is lacking story compared to the others.
But I think just the beauty of it for me was enough. Like it reminds me a lot of Dune. Yeah. Like people were like,
right?
Like there was just like the opening shot.
The composition of the shots are just so good.
See, and there are elements here. Okay, the very start, not the very start, but like. At the start, when he's chasing the guys on the horses, it opens with a sunrise.
It was like Indiana Jones.
Sunrise. And it's like sunrise, and then you get these like 3 figures coming in, and then you get a 4th one, it goes, it's horseback, and then John's just on a horse, shooting these guys, it's awesome. And then it ends with the sunrise. That's his last duel. Like the symbology of things is still there. There's still a tension there, which I'm like,
there is.
Elegant. I love it. Give me more. Doesn't need me John Wick. Just like give me, because here's the thing: if they can do this with John Wick, who is a interesting character, but I feel like
he's a one-dimensional character.
One-dimensional. Keanu's just like,
I know. He loved his dog. He loved his wife. Yes, but that's still very one-dimensional.
Like if you were able to add maybe more backstory to him, more challenges, give him or with a new character, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if they can do with John Wick what they did just now with someone else who's more interesting, maybe have a different writing team or
in the same world,
different setting even. I don't even care if it's the same world.
I want it to be the same world building. That's the whole point.
Maybe you can do like a whole it's off. Like everyone thinks it's not part of the same world, and like the third one ends.
I want it like continental. Some other country continental and have new characters. It'll be good. I like it.
I'd be down for that too. All I'm saying is that you don't need to be connected to John Wick now to make a good John Wick like film.
Yeah,
they're so good at it now that you don't need the IP necessarily. You just need to say from the creators of John Wick. Everyone will be like, all right, let's go see it.
So I would say that the combat in this film is gold standard. Like it's really good.
Really good stuff.
Yeah. Anything else you liked?
And just the composition and everything. The dialogue, subpar, especially in certain areas. You're like, oh, they are reading a script word for word. There's not much. Other times, like the villains, I think do a very good job of like keeping your attention, especially when like I remember the main villain when he's like putting sugar in and then he's like stirring it and then he goes and I'm just like, I don't know why, but you're so off-putting, but I want to watch what you're going to do next because it's a good villain, right? It's really good. But then there's other times where like we're in Japan and then the father and daughter are talking and it's like, your daughter wants to see you at 8. And it's like, oh, why? Oh, she thinks you work too much. Oh, okay. Like, it's like, you could have acted it a bit more naturally. They didn't necessarily act it as well as they could have. But I'm not guessing that they'll hide for their acting ability. I'm guessing they're acting
the daughter that you're talking about.
Yeah.
No shade against her. I just don't think she was that good of an actor.
Yeah.
Just in general. Like, I
agree too. But I reckon maybe she was more of like a stunt woman. That they're like, let's get it in here to do
and get her to do
like
the acting as well. That
and
makes
you
sense.
can get better at acting.
Yeah.
Easy. She can be in another John Wick franchise movie and just, do some more acting stuff. And but even then, like, it's John Wick franchise. You just need cool action pieces and a somewhat cool motive, and then you got yourselves a fun movie. Like, it's good.
Yeah. I have nothing else to add. I think I've summed up.
You summed up your parts?
I enjoyed it.
I want people to just get it through their heads. This is a good movie, and this is a good review.
And it doesn't lecture you. It doesn't lecture you. It doesn't try to tell you anything. It just says, hey, sit down. Have some fun.
From legit, from the start to the end.
Yep.
Because as well, especially the end of Marvel movies, I'm always like, oh, okay, now go see through the credits. And when we're watching with Shad, I'm always like Googling whether or not it has an end
so we can
credit scene.
Get up and leave.
Shad looks at me and goes, does it have it? And I'm like, so I gotta go through this entire article telling us the plot of the movie we just saw. It says it's substantial to the MCU universe, phase 5 and 6, and and Shad's like, all right, let's just get up and leave. Because it doesn't matter. Like, it's always like 2 seconds of like, who cares? Where like this movie, it finished, we were like watching the credits, and there's like the pretty part of the credits where it's like,
credits,
directed by so-and-so.
It's got all the cool slow motion renders and stuff. It's like, it's cool.
And then it goes to black,
and we're like,
the lights come up, and the credits roll, and we're like, oh, we can leave now.
We can leave.
This is great.
We don't have to sit through the full black credits for like 7 to 8 minutes.
And I reckon those credits would have been way shorter compared to Marvel, where it's like CGI Korea, CGI Japan, CGI Australia. Like, it's just like all the VFX teams.
Yeah.
Where he would be like, here's the stunt crew.
Yep.
Thanks for watching the movie. Like, yeah, it was good. I hope we can get more of these movies.
Yeah. I'm just happy that it's 4 movies, self-contained, that all make relative sense, are all fun to watch, even though like third is like my least favorite. They're all fun to watch. I can watch them all again, and nothing ruins them yet. So I'm just happy at that.
And even then, if someone goes out and tries to ruin it, at least you have these 4 perfectly made, like self-contained capsule that no one can touch and ruin because it's yours. Yeah. Get it on Blu-ray now. We're not sponsored, but you probably should because...
Stop whispering. People think we're ASMR. Stop.
It was a skit, guys. Okay, it wasn't real. Anyways, if you enjoyed this review, or if you enjoy videos just in general, then do the thing.
Do the things.
Check out our channels as well if you want to see more of us talking about whatever.
Links in the description, and we will see you for another video probably tomorrow or Monday or
Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever else. So hit the bell icon as well because we like seeing you there. Anyways, thank you all for watching.
As always, stay on watch.